Hello, my name's Erik Katz, Rustic Country Real Estate, and I'm so excited to introduce a dear friend, client, and District 2 Supervisor, Sheryl McKeown Harper. Thanks so much for joining us, Sheryl. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Erik. Thank you.
I thought this would be a great opportunity just to chat for a few minutes and put it out there on Facebook. Obviously, that's where a lot of people meet and connect, and out there in the ether to connect and meet Sheryl a little bit. And by the way, we are going to have an in-person meet and greet coming up this week on Thursday, the 28th. So you can meet her in person. But I figure let's do a little quick video interview and hear a little bit from Sheryl directly.
Lovely. I look forward to it. Thank you
Yes,
for having me.
absolutely. So tell us, Sheryl, why are you running? Like, what inspired you to take this big task on?
Well, I guess I would start a couple of years ago when I got involved down at the state capitol. Under the state of emergency, they were trying to pass a whole bunch of laws that people were against them. Their voices were not being heard. There were a whole bunch of people that were not in agreement with the laws or bills that were being pushed through the legislature at the state level. And so I went down there and I spoke in front of the Senate and I spoke in front of the Assembly, and I went down there with my little signs and I discovered some things that they really don't want to hear us. We're relegated to if you're lucky enough to get a 2-minute speech, you get to speak for 2 minutes on these subjects. But mostly you're relegated to, hi, my name is Sheryl McKeown. I'm with this particular group. I'm for or against this particular bill. And that's all you're allowed. And then the public comment sections are very short. You're only allowed 30 minutes, and however many people get in, that's how many people get in. So I'm discovering that they really didn't want us involved.
Right.
And that there's only one set of voices. And I don't care which color the voices are, red, blue, purple, pink, polka dot. If there's only one set of voices, that's a problem for me. We need equal representation. So I looked up in my county, in my town, and I noticed some of the same stuff going on at a local level. And I realized this might be where I could make a difference rather than screaming at the Capitol and making no difference, that by putting my heart where my feet are and opening my mouth where my feet are, that I might be able to make a difference.
That's awesome. I remember, it's so interesting you bring up the public comment side. I know I've been getting involved on the politics only really from my work as a realtor with fire and fire insurance and some of the issues that we're seeing of these just malfunctioning. But I remember in the water rate, CCWD, that's where we met. Ran into each other there. And it was one of my first experiences going to public comments. And it didn't matter what you said to these folks, they were going to do what they were going to do. And there were a line out the door of people crying, people screaming. I made some funny jokes with them but it was just, we're all screaming, this is not what the public wants. This is not what our community wants or needs. And they're not answering to it. And I think there's a really bad pattern of, when you say public office and public institutions, they're supposed to have the public interests. And I feel like a lot of people feel disenfranchised that it's not. So, I'm glad that we're seeing change, and I'm glad and appreciate you, stepping forward. So, I mean,
I think that they have forgotten that they work for us.
I love
That's
that.
absolutely true. I also think that the public has given up the idea that they work for us far too often. And I said this in my statement that I had to write out for the ballot book. I'm tired of, this is the way it is, and there's nothing we can do about it. And my answer is, no, no, that's not true. And I intend to keep asking questions and being a thorn in their side, and digging into things and making sure that people get answers.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you were to briefly say, tell us, who is Sheryl? Just briefly, because I know we were trying to keep the interview short and
Sure.
And yeah,
Well, let's see. Who is Cheryl? Boy, that's a fun question. When people get that, what the heck do you say? You know, I'm 57 years old and there's been a lot of water under the bridge, but who is Cheryl? Cheryl's an accountant. She does accounting and taxes. Um, I've been doing that for decades. I work with everything from startup businesses to multi-million dollar corporations. And the most important thing to me is to empower them with information, to not hold my clients behind a veil of language. One of the biggest complaints that they have in working with their tax people is, I don't understand what he just said. And so they tell me what the CPA said. And I say, well, this is what he meant. Well, why couldn't he just say that? I don't know. But I make sure, I think the most important thing, the most important service that I can provide to my clients is good, reliable, accurate information upon which they can base decisions, to grow their businesses, um, to make sure they keep their butts out of hot water, make sure that they're making informed decisions. And, in doing that, one of the things that I need to do is let go of, their choices and their outcomes, because ultimately I can tell you, look, this is what you need to do. If you don't do this, this is what could happen. And then they get to choose what they're going to do and what risks they're willing to take. So, in this format with the county, I took that same stance when it came to my community with the Butte fire. I was evacuated for the Butte fire, and the lack of information, whether or not my house was still standing, was frightening and frustrating. And that's how I came to be involved with the community, much more intimately. I know this sounds ridiculously dichotomous, but much more intimately on Facebook through social media, where we were interacting with each other and we were able to tell each other what was going on. There were people up here who didn't evacuate, and really get information to each other. So after Butte Fire, I figured out how to get more information. I'm now a scanner jockey and a ham radio operator, and then I was asked to be the admin of one of the West Point Wilseyville Facebook pages, and I utilize that opportunity to get information to my community, so they could make good decisions. Do I leave? I don't know. I can't make that decision for you. Same thing like with my clients. I can't make that decision for you. I can tell you this is what I know. This is the information. And if you don't feel safe, maybe you should leave. But I've learned a lot about emergency situations so that I can communicate to the public, what's going on, so they can make good decisions. And it's near and dear to my heart. It's my phone that goes off pretty often. What the heck is the helicopter over my house? Why is there smoke? What's going on? And then if I happen to be like living my own life for a minute, I'm like, oh, let me get my little ears on and find out what's going on so that I can help people not be scared. I think when we have information, we're less scared.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. You've been doing such an important, valuable service for the community. And I love that you've got an accounting background to get some transparency what's going on in our public organizations. I mean, we pay a lot of tax
Yes.
dollars, fees, property taxes, a huge amount of revenues that these institutions, and they need money to do things. But, actually I found accounting, it's like another language. And I've
Yeah.
always been impressed. I mean, I've run lots of small businesses in my life, and I remember early on in my career in my IT business, I had a friend who was like a CFO level, and I was still trying to figure it all out. And I give him a copy of my books and statements, and it's like he could tell me the story on everything that happened that year. And I'm like,
Yeah.
how did that story? How did you able to give me a narrative about what happened in my business this year? It's just a set of numbers, but he just but he had that skill. And I think that's so important. And so we really need somebody to like bring both transparency, and I want to see accountability, right? There's
Mhm.
just a lack of accountability and a lack of transparency. And I'm with you. I've given up on the idea of making this big old difference in the federal and the state, but I think we absolutely can in the local. And that's why I'm such a big champion for you here. And I'm really excited because I know the community is really important to you. And I feel like that's something you really stand on.
Thank you. Yeah, and I noticed they had a revenue workshop that was 2 days long. I say the county, the county did. Some of the board of supervisors were there. Most of the department heads were there. They had, these PowerPoint presentations, and one day it was a 60-page PowerPoint presentation, and the next day it was a 40-page PowerPoint presentation. So there was a lot of preparation that went into this. They knew that it was happening. Do you know when they informed the public that it was occurring and the invitation went out? 36 hours before the event.
See, everybody knows something's wrong when you have like 120-page presentation and you let people know. I mean, that's these games. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited that we're going to work really hard and get you in this office, because you're going to be able to help, kind of distill that information for us, right? And we can jump
Yeah, I've
on these,
already
I'll put it
started.
out there on Facebook and go, hey, look, this is the scenario, and give everybody a quick few minutes. So I'm really excited. And what I want us to do is I really want to encourage people to reach out to Sheryl, meet her. She's going to be out in the public. There's many dates coming up. There's 2 or 3 dates, and we'll be posting that on public forums across the county, where she's going to meet in front of her other candidates, as well as we're hosting this meet and greet coming up this Thursday at Rustic Country Real Estate. So we're really excited. We're going to be meeting in West Point, San Andreas, Mountain Ranch, and we'll have some other locations set up. So I'm just excited for you to be out there and interface with us. And thanks again for all the work that you do.
Thank you. I sure appreciate your support and your friendship, and thank you for doing this with me today.
Absolutely. All right. This is great.